Do men actually leave when they don't feel good enough, or does it come down to him just not being that into you? By good enough, I mean feeling pressured by the responsibilities of a relationship but genuinely loving the person, or feeling challenged and scared to do the work but still saying they love the person. Is choking and getting scared to the point of leaving while really being into the person a real thing? Is that all nonsense? Story 1. Men don't approach if they don't feel good enough. Generally, good men will leave once it's clear that they're not truly valued in the relationship. People will either cherish or take for granted genuine love and affection from their partners. Story 2. Men are most likely to leave when they don't feel valued and appreciated. Remember, guys, you don't owe her a better life. Story 3. I'm sure a couple of exes might have characterized me leaving as that. I just get tired that nothing is ever good enough for them. It's good enough for a short while, then the bar consistently gets raised. It's a game of how much can I get away with, and I notice it early in relationships, at which point they promptly get put in the trash. Story 4. Feeling pressured by the responsibilities of a relationship is the #1 reason men are reluctant to commit. You have expectations of what your male partner will do. He may not want to be responsible for what you want. Story 5. In situations like this, it's almost entirely because I like her, and I've tried, but she's not respecting my time or effort. Relationship building is only done on her terms, whether that's the pacing of the relationship or the actual time spent together and scheduling. If I say, I just can't handle this right now, and bring up work or other responsibilities, it's probably a last-ditch effort to make her understand that she's not helping me. She's just another stressor in my life, and that's a choice she is making. Story 6. Some do. Insecurity is one hell of an insidious thing, but it can also just be a case of it's not you, it's me. Story 7. Men tend to leave when they feel undervalued or like a burden. Men rarely receive words of encouragement or gratitude. If we went from hearing a positive thing once a year to once a week, it would completely change our mindset. Story 8. Some men leave and some don't. Some let it crush their soul with feelings of inadequacy and shut themselves in, knowing they'll never be good enough for the one they love. Others keep trying, even if only a little, while some give up altogether. The best thing to do is not to criticize men to the point where they feel they're not good enough. If you feel they're not good enough, leave. Don't wait for the man. There's a good chance he'll try to tough it out, and both of you will be miserable. Story 9. In a relationship, physical attraction only gets you so far. There are many more layers of complexity beyond appearance. If you can't make most of those layers work, the relationship will collapse. The biggest one is emotional gratification. Does the relationship feel good? Story 10. I'd say yes. Part of the reason I left a previous relationship was that I didn't feel financially secure enough to be able to give my girlfriend more in terms of time or dates. Story 11. I think it's a real thing. I think it would happen with a big mismatch in life stage or income. If you're with someone whose idea of a vacation is going to Milan for a week and yours is going to the nearest major city for a day, you're going to feel like a burden. Story 12. From my personal experience, it's nonsense. We will work extra shifts, take on a second job, and hustle to do what we must if by good enough you mean provide. Most men, once in a relationship, will be happy that someone loves them. If we do leave, usually it's something insurmountable we can't overcome. Or in my case, I couldn't get over her cheating. She made it seem like I gave up or that I just wasn't man enough to get over it, placing all the blame on men when it was clearly her fault. It's the worst thing you can do in the end. Story 13. A lot of people are changing the narrative here, but there is some element of shame in some relationships. There's a difference between I'll never be enough for her and I'll never meet her standards. The first is feeling inadequate to what you think you should be. The second is feeling inadequate to what she thinks you should be. You're talking about the first. To be clear, sometimes a woman will make a man feel this way on purpose. This is the second disguised as the first and a form of manipulation and abuse. Other times, a man will project his own feelings of inadequacy onto falsely perceived expectations of the woman. This is the first disguised as the second and a form of unhealthy justification for what comes next. Regarding the first, I felt it in my marriage. I'm not good enough. Why doesn't she leave? She deserves and can get better than this. I'm too broke. I'm too weak. I will never be enough. I thought I could be. I was before, but things have changed. How did I fail so utterly when I had it so good? Why is she still here? How can I ever become deserving again? I haven't seen a man leave for this reason, but I have been tempted to just disappear for this reason, so I'm sure that others have done just that. Story 14. Not for me. If I leave, it's because I see a problem I cannot overcome. For whatever reason, I clearly see that we would never work, so I move on. Each case is different. Story 15. I equate it to this. I was married to my ex-wife for 14 years, and she never once came out to offer me a glass of water when I was outside working hard in the yard in August. Appreciation for the small things goes a long way with me. I always remember the classic line from Bill Burr about his wife, making him a sandwich out of nowhere. You know how many times I've thought about that sandwich? Story 16. I broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years on the eve of our 5th anniversary late last year. I regret it every day and wish I could take it back. I left because, after some personal issues, I became the main financial support for my family and fell into a deep hole trying to ensure no one became homeless. I had to stop paying my credit lines off fully each month and began taking cash advances. My credit score dropped from over 780 to 499, according to my bank application. She, on the other hand, was the perfect woman, beautiful with a great job, Ivy League educated, bought a house at 25, and generally had it set. I don't know what she initially saw in me. Growing up, I was a dirt poor child and finally managed to start changing my life financially over the last 5 years. I'm a couple of years older than her and should be at a point in my life where I'm more established career-wise and financially. Unfortunately, I didn't feel it was fair for her to continue waiting for me and for my family to be in a good place where they no longer need me. I wanted to give her everything, but I could only offer the very little I had. She deserved to be with someone on her financial level, who could be with her more often than I could and who could make her his priority, someone who was already the man I'm working towards becoming. No matter how much I wanted to be that man for her, I just couldn't. So I did what I thought was best for her. Sometimes men leave when they feel they aren't good enough. Story 17. Do men actually leave when they don't feel good enough, or is it because they are just not that into you? Can be both. Comes down to nuance. You can certainly end things when you're not feeling enough, and you can certainly end things when you feel that she's not enough. The outcome is the same either way. Is feeling overwhelmed and getting scared to the point of leaving while really being into the person a real thing? When you don't feel like you're contributing, then yes, you can decide on your own that you're not good enough or worthy enough for a great girl. Not that it's what always happens, but it can happen. Story 18. I self-sabotaged a 5-year relationship where I felt I wasn't good enough anymore. Depression and self-doubt are a challenging thing. I regretted it for a long time. Story 19. Some do, sure. I don't think it's common, but it happens. People end relationships for all kinds of reasons, good and bad. Story 20. Depends on the person. Some people stay out of fear of being alone, while others take that leap into the unknown and do what is best for them. Story 21. In my experience and opinion, men who don't feel good enough usually sabotage the relationship so that you leave, rather than having the courage and confidence to break it off themselves. If they had courage and confidence, they'd feel good enough. Story 22. Men, in my experience, feel an overwhelming need and desire to fix things and provide, along with a desire to be appreciated. If something is broken in your partner and you can't fix it, at least I, sometimes feel upset and blame ourselves. If someone is making more or doing better, some may feel intimidated. And if you don't feel appreciated, then why are we together? Story 23. Yes, 100%. I've left girls I absolutely loved and still love deeply to this day. Whether I don't feel good enough or don't think it will be worth the pain, guys do leave, even if they actually love you. Story 24. The fastest way to lose a man is to make him feel unneeded or useless. If he is a man with options, he can easily find another woman who finds him useful. So you should take a good, long thought about whether you want to risk it. Story 25. Statistically, Women are the ones to leave relationships. Many men will endure the worst situations. This is not to say that both situations don't happen on both sides. Story 26. OP, you need to ask him what you're doing that's making him feel overwhelmed. The responsibilities of a relationship shouldn't be so substantial that they make him feel pressured, assuming he's not a lazy loser. Story 27. I left because I didn't feel she showed much interest in the things I was interested in. My hobby is playing video games, and as much as I tried to get her involved, I bought her a few Steam games like Stardew Valley, It Takes Two, and some others. She was not into gaming at all, and I want a person around with whom I could discuss these things. Sure, I have friends, but I do want to do it with my girlfriend. The second biggest problem was that I didn't feel loved enough. It's hard to explain this one, but we haven't had sex or anything close to that in our 2-year relationship. I was her first, so I get she was shy. I didn't push her, yet it was hard for me. Her way of showing love was gifts and taking care of me. I appreciate that a lot, but I also wanted more physical contact when she initiated it, like kissing, hugging, holding my hand, and telling me her feelings about me. She rarely did those, and it made me feel like I wasn't loved that much. I never had this problem in my previous relationships. Otherwise, she was an amazing person, and I hope she will find happiness in life. Story 28. From my own experience, at least I did. Dated an amazing girl for almost 2 years. She was exceptional at everything, beautiful, smart, funny, and incredibly nice. She excelled at school and was popular among her peers, while I struggled with depression. Unfortunately, we started dating at the lowest point of my life, and I just couldn't keep up with her, always comparing myself to her and feeling worthless. So I ended it with her. We talked for an hour and decided it would be best for both of us to part ways. While the burden has lifted, my life has felt empty since without her. Story 29. Without knowing specifics, it's impossible to judge your situation. That being said, in a small number of cases, yes, it can be a real thing. However, the balance of probabilities would suggest that he's just not that into you if he is being distant. As a final comment, yes, relationships take a lot of work at times. The difference between relationships and actual work is that when you are in a relationship, it doesn't feel like working. It feels like willingly putting in effort for something you love. Story 30. Thank you so much for all the answers. Very insightful. I have an extra question. Have you ever been infatuated with a woman you just met and then got so scared to the point of ghosting or sabotaging the relationship? Story 31. I left a medium-term relationship when I realized I was never asked for my opinion on our future together. I only heard what she wanted our lives to look like. I was expected to uproot my kids and move to her town. I was to buy a 5-bedroom house for all of us to live in. She wanted to get married and have another baby. She saw me as her winning lottery ticket. Now, story 32. No, for a man to leave, he must feel unappreciated and think that the benefits of the relationship are not worth the effort. It's incredibly rare for the second condition to occur because men are willing to deal with a lot of issues just to have access to consistent intimacy. The first point is pretty common, however, because women tend to focus on men's shortcomings, which puts men in a losing situation. For example, if a man works extra hours so that he can provide more for his family, the woman may become upset that he no longer spends as much quality time. Story 33. I left when these are different people. I wanted her to be happy, but she was content to be unhappy and committed to not changing. I was doing all the reaching out and date planning. We had good times together, but that effort was never reciprocated. I couldn't shake the feeling that I would fall off the pedestal she put me on and end up hurting her. She wanted me to be someone I wasn't. Some change is okay and can be healthy, but she wanted a completely different personality. Story 34. Yes, but it's not that simple. I broke up with my ex because I was insecure about many things and didn't think I was adequate. It greatly damaged my self-confidence, which manifested in toxic ways. I recognized that was unhealthy for her, even though she wanted to stay. I also understood that correcting my behavior would be a slow process despite my best efforts, and I didn't want to keep hurting someone I loved, so I broke up with her. I still loved her, and part of me still does, but I genuinely was not good for her, and despite how hard it was, I don't regret it. I just regret that I wasn't good enough at the time. Story 35. They won't approach if they don't feel good enough. Once they have you, I don't think they care about feeling good enough. I did have a guy during the dating phase tell me, "I can't give you what you want." I never openly said what I wanted, but I do know how to dress very nicely and look like I have expensive taste, so I guess he just assumed. I'm good at bargain shopping. Either way, it seemed like he felt he had inadequacies. He was a guy who wore comic graphic tees, so visually we didn't match. Story 36. I left, even though I loved my ex, because I wasn't ready for a relationship, and what I was bringing wasn't enough. The person I was with wasn't worth the effort, which sounds and probably hurts worse than it is. I have much work to do on myself and haven't even scratched the surface on relationship matters. I'm not ready, and I couldn't improve without hurting the person I loved, so I left. Story 37. I leave when I feel like my partner is just another source of stress for me, makes me scared of even talking to her, and somehow expects more from me without putting in the work herself. This makes it seem like I'm not enough from her point of view. Story 38. I didn't leave my first girlfriend, but I pushed her away until she eventually left me. I considered it my final act of love to free her from the train wreck that I was slowly becoming at the time. She deserved better. Story 39. If men don't feel good enough, most will put in extra effort. When they don't feel wanted or valued, they will leave. Story 40. Men don't generally leave because of pressure, choking, or being scared. I think you described more of a woman's experience. Men are easy to please and are punished for leaving certain relationships, so we usually don't leave for the reasons you mentioned. Not feeling appreciated, as someone else said, is a big one. Story 41. I recently left a relationship where I did everything at home, and she went out with friends frequently, disrupting her kids' sleep schedule. I asked multiple times for help with chores, but I received no response. Sometimes I wonder if I should have stayed longer, but I couldn't take it after 3 months of living with her. I was with her for about a year and a half, but I ignored the signs, thinking she would change. Story 42. 2 answers. There are men who have mental health or maturity issues, and they legitimately don't feel good enough for the person they're with. Hopefully, in time, they'll grow out of it or get the help they need to see clearly. Sometimes it takes them being out of the relationship and spending time alone to grow. There's no helping them until they take that time to find themselves. Yes, I have walked away from relationships where I was mistreated and undervalued. Zero hesitation. My mother was a narcissistic monster, and after a lot of healing and settling for bad women in relationships, I finally respected myself enough not to waste my time on women who were overbearing and controlling. Story 43. This feels related to something I've always wondered about. At least the comments are touching on this. I've always wondered if a lot of men absolutely hate their jobs and sort of resent women because they feel women are the only reason they have to have a job. Or if men feel that they alone aren't good enough and that their job makes them such. Until my husband, every man I've ever been with has left when I asked them if they could get a job. They didn't start out jobless, but I sort of paved the way for them to become jobless. I own my own home and paid for most things. It would just happen that they would get frustrated with their job, quit, and then choose not to work again because they didn't have to. When I asked them to get a job, the answers varied, but it all boiled down to, we aren't going to be happy together if I have a job. I'm going to be angry all the time. I don't need a job, so I'll resent you for making me have one, etc. The relationships were good otherwise. We were happy and had hobbies, and all 3 contacted me later to say it was a mistake to leave me. They were largely good people. As far as I know, 2 now live with their parents, but 1 became a fairly successful streamer. It feels like they simply could not go back to work. And it's not just me. A younger friend has had similar experiences, although for her it was more fighting that led to breakups rather than them leaving. So, I guess what I've observed is that some men really could just do without the trappings of society altogether. For those specific men, the entirety of having to maintain a lifestyle is done for women only. So maybe when some men say they aren't good enough, it's really that their life goals don't align at all with what women think. Not good enough for something they don't even want to begin with? Story 44. Yeah, that's a cope expressed by women who feel entitled. Men leave when they aren't valued or appreciated. Story 45. Yes, I left. I was doing a 14-hour job and getting criticized because she had a doctoral degree and was doing research in a field where nothing happened, while my job required hands-on work every minute. I improved and earned more than her while she literally had nothing to do. I enjoyed my work while she did not. I kept the job and left the nagging. Story 46. I want to marry my girlfriend one day, but we both still have a lot of personal growth to do. Not feeling appreciated enough definitely affects a man, especially when he puts in a lot of effort, time, and personal expense into showing willingness to build and grow in a relationship. Put effort into showing appreciation for your partner's efforts. Story 47. Towards the end, my ex treated me like I was a side piece, and I felt worthless. It was painful because, on one hand, I loved her deeply and wanted to work on things, but on the other hand, I knew I had communicated my lack of satisfaction, and she kept crossing boundaries. It was painful, but I had to force her to have a conversation, and she didn't like that. Story 48. The truth is, yes, I felt like the relationship was more of a checklist of things that had to be done, things I didn't enjoy but my partner did. In the end, it was stressful for me to maintain a facade and unfair for her not to have a partner who truly supported her. So, I decided to end the relationship before it went on any longer. I've never forgotten the feeling of relief I had when I slept that night. Story 49. Yeah, sounds like nonsense. If your relationship requires you to step up, just do it. If you need to work more for the relationship, so be it. Story 50. If they actually love the girl and think she deserves whatever she wants in the world, then they can understand that it's not them and they have to accept that one way or another. It's not easy though, it's easier to move on. Story 51. What is the question? No one is scared to do the work, whatever that means, but I'm lost as to the basic question. Story 52. I have left because of that. I began experiencing mental health issues and felt she didn't sign up for it, so I made up her mind for her. I wasn't good enough. She deserved better. Story 53. I can say as a man I've felt this way before and reconsidered some relationships because I genuinely thought I was doing something terribly wrong or not good enough for the person I was dating. Story 54. When there's no need for us in any way or we can't do anything for you, teach you something new or provide for you in any way, there's really no point in us being there. You've got it, so good luck with it. Story 55. No, this doesn't happen. Men leave when she's not putting in a reasonable amount of effort, showing affection, or adding to his life instead of taking away from it. Story 56. I left a relationship because I knew I couldn't provide the things to make her happy. It wasn't that I didn't feel good enough, but she wanted to have many kids, be a stay-at-home mom, have a big house, and travel. I'm not a millionaire, so I wasn't the right person for that. Story 57. I left an ex, even though at the time I cared deeply about her, because she always complained about everything I did. I wouldn't say I didn't feel good enough. I am, in my opinion, great, so that's not the issue, and I don't think it would be an issue for most men. The issue was being with someone who only sees the negative and not the positive. Someone who complains rather than communicates properly in a way the relationship can progress, basically making your partner feel unappreciated for everything they do. Story 58. I left because I felt like I wasn't good enough, but it's been so many years that the perspective is completely different. Basically, I thought I wasn't doing enough to be worthy of the person's interest and love. What I've since concluded is that I am worthy because others have shown me as much. The person I was with was not interested in what I had to offer and was not providing any feedback. I made the right decision and left. I know now that it is okay to expect some kind of feedback when you express your affection for someone, and it is reasonable to end the relationship if there is a lack of feedback. Story 59. Nobody ever questions when a woman wants to walk away, but when a man does, it is considered that something is wrong with the man, never the woman. The problem is that we need to affirm the importance of men in culture. Men are undervalued from a social standpoint, while intrinsically, they have so much value in terms of keeping society running, not to mention the physical infrastructure they are responsible for. It is not equitable. Anytime you feel you are not getting the affection you deserve after giving so much, it's time to leave. Any self-respecting man in a relationship with a woman who doesn't value, respect, and show loyalty to him needs to leave immediately. Life is hard enough, and being a man who contributes to society, even at a basic level, deserves recognition and respect. Story 60. I can't imagine loving someone and not wanting a relationship with them because it is too much responsibility. If I love someone, I am just happy to be around them. Reasons I have left past partners. I suspected she still had feelings for her ex. I maybe should have given her a chance to get over him. She wanted a child with me, but I didn't want one with her as she could be quite unkind. She wanted me as a stepfather to her child, and I couldn't cope with that. I dig a bit deeper into what were the scary responsibilities of a relationship that they said they didn't want to do. Story 61. If a man said that to you, there's a small chance that's true. Maybe he actually feels that way, but there's a much greater chance that he just wasn't that into you and wanted to find a good way to say, "You're not the problem, it's me." Story 62. It's quite the opposite. Men will leave when they feel she isn't good enough. If a woman can't add any value to the relationship and brings nothing to the table, it's over. Good looks are not enough and beauty fades with time. Story 63. I've never seen a man leave who didn't already have someone lined up, but it usually stems from feeling unappreciated, not respected, or desired. Story 64. Absolutely. I recently left a toxic relationship because no matter what, I was never enough. Since then, I realized that she was abusive and horrible. Story 65. This is why I insist on getting to know someone before making any kind of commitment. I have no way of knowing for sure until there is a way to be. It can take weeks or months to get to know someone properly. Compatibility is a much bigger deal than just settling. Story 66. Men won't easily give up if they truly love their partner. If they love you, they can handle the pressure. If the pressure becomes too much and a man decides to leave, it's because he believes this person isn't worth the trouble. Story 67. Definitely real for some, at least. I was extremely depressed and not being treated. I couldn't believe that I wasn't somehow harming my partner by being with them. Hurting my partner, even unintentionally, wasn't an option for me, so I left. Story 68. If the relationship is making his life worse instead of better, he will probably leave regardless of why it is making his life worse. Men do not owe you the relationships you want from them. You have to be a net benefit to a partner's life. People are in relationships because they want to be. You have to give them a reason to want to be in a relationship with you. You were probably unpleasant to be around, and he probably tried to talk to you about it several times. However, sometimes women do not listen and do not handle constructive criticism like adults. Instead, they may throw temper tantrums and blame others for their own behaviors when people try to talk to them. Story 69. I think it happens, particularly with younger men with lower confidence. But that is probably not the whole story. I was in a similar situation once. I was in an uncertain time with my career, with a girl that I loved. However, the vibe I was getting from her was that being with a man who is financially successful was a prerequisite for her happiness. It did not feel good. I was stressed about failing in her eyes, so I quit rather than risk being a failure. Story 70. It's not that they don't feel good enough. It's that they aren't getting the recognition and appreciation they are giving. The idea that men will sacrifice their happiness for a relationship is fiction, but we've all begun to realize that boundaries are not just for women. Story 71. Men leave when they are made to feel they aren't good enough, especially when it comes from the woman they look at and think, "Say what?" Story 72. Absolutely. I knew she deserved better, and I couldn't give it to her, and that she seemed willing to remain unhappy with me out of a misplaced sense of loyalty. Her unhappiness made me unhappy, so I let her go once I realized I was just being selfish. I decided not to get involved with anyone else until I had become a better person. 7 years later, it hasn't happened. It's better that way than to make someone else I care about unhappy. Story 73. My ex-girlfriend gave me everything I ever wanted, but her insecurities and constant need for attention were overwhelming. At first, I loved it, but it slowly drained me and I took her for granted. She left me, and I understand now that meeting her needs was impossible. I realize she has had many relationships and has been single for a long time. I still love her in a way, but I think I love the idea of her. Story 74. I would say most men would do that. I didn't feel valued or appreciated in my last relationship, but I was pathetic and needy and stayed until she had enough of me. Story 75. Some guys definitely don't want to put in the work to make a relationship succeed. Some guys panic when things start to get serious, so both could be true in your case. However, guys will also leave if they don't feel appreciated or respected. If, when you use the word expectation, you really mean entitlement, you're going to lose a lot of guys who might actually love you but aren't feeling it back. I honestly didn't realize how big this was until I met a woman who actually showed her appreciation for me and the things I did for her. Even stuff that was expected, she'd still thank me for those things. She also made it a two-way street, as she would find things to do for me to show her appreciation or respect. A plot twist for many women: your physical looks and sex are not going to be enough to keep a guy. Any man with an average amount of self-respect will not stay in a relationship where he does not feel valued or respected. If you have expectations for your partner, communicate them clearly early on, and even if it is an expectation, still make sure you let him know you appreciate him. Story 76. That's people in general. It's more of a character trait versus a gender-specific one. Some people are stubborn and persevere, while others break under pressure and bail. Story 77. Considering that almost every relationship has ended with them saying, "I love you, I'm just not in love with you," and they are with someone new within a few weeks, I often feel I'm not good enough. I've been left after 4 years of being together and would really not like to have that happen again. If I don't feel appreciated or wanted, then I'm going to leave. I'm not going to be a placeholder until you find the guy you actually want. The last girl affected me significantly, and I'm grateful for the support of my friends. But honestly, I don't think I would survive losing another long-term relationship for seemingly no reason. It's self-preservation. I'm not going to try and convince you to like me. You either do or you don't. If I don't feel wanted, I don't want it. Story 78. Some victims stay trying to please a woman who is incapable of being satisfied. Some get out of that kind of toxic arrangement and live a better life because of it. Story 79. I did. She was older than me, entering her 30s with a graduate degree. I never finished undergraduate studies. She had a great job while I was working at a grocery store. All her friends had good jobs and were buying houses and having babies. I felt like I was holding her back. Then I sensed a severe wave of depression coming, so I left before she had to deal with it. It was the hardest breakup, but I'm confident that she's happier. Story 80. Men don't usually leave relationships. And when they do, it's not usually for that kind of reason. It's usually when they feel extremely unappreciated or extremely disrespected, or when they feel like they are not allowed to do anything they want. It's always her. Most men will put up with a lot of problems before they walk away. They figure it just comes with the territory and they'd better just deal with it. So if he's calling it off, you'd better be doing some soul searching. Story 81. I'm curious about the question. It sounds like the person is asking about the guy not feeling good enough internally, as if he cannot meet the needs of the other person. It's as if he feels like he can't give that person what they deserve and would rather leave than allow that person to endure a less-than partner. Story 82. Yes. I was in the talking stage with the most genuine and amazing woman I've ever met. I never got bored of her, and she never got bored with me. There was always something to talk about. We both saw it going deep and in love. However, I wasn't where I wanted to be, especially in my career. I felt embarrassed about myself. So, in a nutshell, yes, we leave because we don't feel like we're enough, and we reject women because we aren't ready and also don't reply. A woman told me I'm cute on Instagram direct message, and I left her undelivered. She is beautiful as well. Story 83. Men will usually leave if they perceive that they will be considered not good enough. The actual value and truth don't even matter. I'll leave if I suspect she will think that way of me. I'm there to be appreciated, not to feel like I need to level up. I'm just as likely to leave if she is wrong as I am if she is right. I could think I'm the greatest person on earth, but I'm not going to stick around and try to prove it to anyone. I'm there to have a partner, not a checklist and a certification plaque. I'm perfectly fine not jumping through any hoop someone puts in front of me just because they think they can shame me into it. Story 84. It's probably rare, but yes. Years ago, I was in a 2-year relationship with a woman I knew was destined for great things. If the relationship were to continue, I would, in some ways, hold her back and she might not reach her full potential. I didn't even want that to be a remote possibility, so I ended the relationship. She became a very high earner in her field. I'm the same blue-collar guy I always knew I wanted to be. It was painful for both of us. Not something I wanted to do, but I held strong. I still consider it one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Story 85. Oh, I've openly written long messages telling people exactly why I'm not good enough and all the ways they deserve better. I'd say I'm a special case with self-defeating tendencies, negative self-confidence, and zero self-preservation. Story 86. I loved and still admire my ex-wife of 10 years, but I am very glad we're not together anymore. To be brutally blunt, I knew we needed to split when I realized I would rather take care of myself than feel obligated to sleep with her again. Story 87. Laughing out loud. Men will say anything to try and dump a woman. One of my exes even tried burning down my house. Laughing out loud. Read more derivations of, it's not you, it's me. Story 88. When my presence is not valued, I will disappear. There is value in being able to camp off-grid in the desert or the mountains. If I don't want to be found, you won't be able to find me. If I do that, it's because I'm tired of excuses and explaining the same thing repeatedly. It's funny to me that when I say no to my dogs, they understand. Say it to a woman and you might as well have opened Pandora's box. It doesn't matter if it's for her protection or setting a boundary. It's nonsense. Women need to be knocked off their pedestals and humbled. One thing I do is make sure all my stuff is protected and inaccessible. Because we all know what happens when a man goes ghost. The woman cheats and wants revenge. I just stop that in its tracks. If I go ghost, I'm already not coming back. Story 89. Yeah, what, you think you're gonna mess it up nonstop and we're gonna stay because you're pretty? Because you and yours have created an environment where men are undervalued and unwanted? Nope, those of us who are worth something have learned that no relationship is better than a bad relationship. Story 90. It's nonsense. No one leaves for not being good enough. Now, it is possible that someone may reject you for not being part of their unsavory world, such as criminality. But that's very rare. What you're describing is nonsense. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.